I'll be calling you a radical. Hang in there with me. So we'll talk about long haulers. I'll tell you long haulers. We'll talk about the byproduct of Fukushima, and we're really going to hammer away at the COVID-19. Now, we know this is unarguable science. I mean, there's lots of stuff out there we can't pin down. But that's what I do, Kevin Blanche, the scientist. I do the work. I mean, this is real science. Not scientists are mystified, baffled, puzzled. By the way, I want to say this about the vaccines. 94, 95% vax rate? That's all that good? No, it's not that good. By the way, polio, whooping cough, measles, that takes multiple vaxes to get you to the 99.99999%. So we got a long ways to go on this thing, but stay with me. The Red Cross has come out. Speaking of blood, did I lose some yesterday? Whew. Stressed out because I'll show you Fukushima long hauler. So, COVID. The Red Cross comes out and says point blank, our blood, we screened a bunch of our blood from November, December of 2019. And out of the screening blood, they took a random sample set, a pretty big one. 593 samples had COVID antibodies in them in late November and December. Now, my guess is they'll be going further back, but I've always said this has been around for a while. This has been a mutation by definition. Novel. I mean, it's not your crown virus 1 through 18. Crown virus 19 is a beast. Kobe from the sea. This is a whole new animal post Fukushima. Now stay with me. I want to talk a little bit about the long haulers of COVID and how devastating. I got cancer in 2011. This is the heartbreak of a cancer survivor. And a lot of people out there know this. I've dealt with them. Some of the most discriminated people on earth are cancer survivors. People hate us, by the way. And because they've had loved ones die and they're like, fuck you, but only the good die young. We're left here, we have work to do. And being a survivor ain't all that. It's actually a heartbreaking journey that I've learned a lot along this path. My whole world changed, I was a whole different animal. I was telling my dentist, I says, I was a millionaire, self-made, twice. I've been very successful my whole life, up, down, crash. What a journey, roller coaster from hell. The truck hit me. Literally, a freight train hit me in October of 2011. I was in perfectly good condition. There's a picture of me at Deseret News with my sign protesting, Occupy. I'm one of the originators of Occupy. I was getting ready to get on a plane to go to Zuccotti the day that the freight train hit me. Called cancer. I think a lot of people can relate this with COVID because we're finding out now the after effects of people that have had it can be devastating. Well, hello. This foreign entity into your body, this foreign virus, I really do not like the name COVID-19. The World Health Organization come up. I protested there in Geneva. Hope to be again there soon. Before I forget, I'll be headed to San Diego ASAP. I got to heal up. Let's talk about this. So the freight train hit me in 2011. It hit me. When I have to call an ambulance, it was a stomach ache. It got violent. I'm a tough dude. I'm a really tough dude. I'll tell you how tough I am. Last night, this big molar didn't want to come out. Thank you, Dr. Bingham, because these oral surgeons, we don't know, blah, 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 blah. That dude, he's got a soul. Kevin, we just got to get that poison out. Let's get it out. I can do it. I know it's going to be tricky, but I can do it. He got it out. But it was, You know what tooth pain is. You know what tooth infection is. You know, leukemia victims. I'll never forget this. I was at the bone marrow transplant. The same day that Johnny was there from Arco, Idaho. And I said, what the hell are you doing back here? It's back, Kev. I'll be dead soon. I can't go through this again. He was dead. I'm in the clinic. And this woman says, Kev, go get your teeth pulled now. Go get them all pulled. Avoid the rush. As soon as those platelet counts get strong enough, you know, this is a old school cancer victim, survivor. She says, you don't know what the fuck you're in for as a cancer survivor. You know we're hated people. I says, we are? Yeah, and you don't know what you're in for. Go get them all pulled right now because you're it. I says, no, my teeth are good. You know, I'm the beautiful guy still. I'm young and I'm still strong, you know. Still got girls to chase. Still got money to go freaking. She laughed. She says, Kevin, they're going to go. Go get them all pulled now so it save the pain. I know. Should have listened to her. But I was not ready for the fall. Too blind to see the writing on the wall. This fight, the AML Leukemia, de novo, just like COVID. Now, stay with me. This is important. As far as the scientists, mystified, baffled, stumped, perplexed, bewildered, curious, alarmed, stumped, that don't fucking get it. That's asymmetric. You know, academia has been exposed as a fraud, especially in the United States. All this media is a fucking disgusting. YouTube vlogs are just, not all of them. There's a guy out there right now, I'm trying to think of his name, that does these great pieces on nuclear accidents, whatever. He's fantastic. You know, and my grand says, no, Grandpa, look what I watch on your channel. Let me see. I'm like, that dude's actually pretty damn good, you know. But as far as the hyperbole, the spin. So, when I got sick, Natalie Farr right here, my neighbor, who has recently passed away young, it's heartbreaking, had a heart attack out of nowhere in perfectly good condition. She scanned me. She was my radiologist that night at McQuack-D. And I know she knows her shit because later she became an oncologist. She was one of my nurses. She was one great nurse, one great person. She just died young, heart attack. Was it COVID? She sure worked with a lot of patients. You know, these things attack the heart. So, my phone ringing off the hook. So, they scanned me, and I'll never forget this quack. Now I've learned about emergency room doctors. They're quacks. In Utah, you don't even have to have a medical degree. I mean, this Michael Hawkins that told me to go see my dentist when my heart was failing has a 2-year chiropractic degree from Western Montana. He represents himself as a doctor. So, he didn't read the scan. He says, you got an elevated white count, but I think it's just food poisoning. He sent me home like a dumbass. Didn't restrict my diet. The next doctor didn't restrict my diet. The next one, you know, I went back, finally a female doctor. I was watching the Steve Jobs Isaacson interview when she says she found it. I was full of tumors wrapped around my lower bowel and intubated. Of course, they didn't figure it was leukemia. Who would? But de novo, on the move. That's what it's called. AML de novo, which is almost always a death sentence. She got teary-eyed. Sent me in the doctor up there, the oncologist, young guy. I met him, just me, on a Friday night. Just like last night. This thing hurt. And I'm like, they gave me some pain pills. And I'm not much for pain pills, but I'm like, I got to take one. So I'm so distraught last night. I just stressed out this thing. All this has stressed me out. I took one of the pain pills. So I thought, you know, this pain wouldn't go away. Finally, you know, I just suffering through, you know how that goes. You know, I know pain. I mean, I was in that bone marrow transplant center for off and on for 5 years. So finally, you know, because you can only take one every 6 hours. And I says, well, it's been over 6 hours. Take another one. I had taken the wrong pill earlier. I took another one of the antibiotic. That's how stressed out I was, you know. Cancer victims are really on their own, but single cancer victims, people that struggle do much better because they don't have enablers. It's a fight. So I get to see Vincent today, and then I'm off to San Diego. But my point of all this is, look, the misdiagnosis, which I think that's COVID. COVID's a beast. I knew it was right off the get. The shutting down and fearing the populace and causing panic in the early days, I was always against it. It always had to be logical. And, I just know that because I've been wearing a mask off and on for 9 years. When I go into a hospital, if I go anyplace, mask up. I always have, post-cancer. We have to be logical, but people aren't. People are selfish. They have to be forced into a position because they don't care. They're just about me, 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 me. So where did COVID come from? Did it come from, is it a biological weapon from the Wuhan lab? There's a lot of evidence that point there, isn't there? There's a lot of pretty strong circumstantial evidence that comes there. We don't know yet. But we do have a good idea that it came from an animal. Don't you love these phone calls over and over? Scam likely. The government won't clean it up. Oh, they can't. Yes, they could. That's who's doing it. I got kicked off Medicaid. So the long haul of a cancer victim. So let's review. This is important so you people know. I had RCM squared 3 heavy rounds. Really heavy rounds. Burned the pigment out of my eyes, blisters on my tongue. I went from 170 to 130. I got down to 119. I was a jockey weight. I don't know how I didn't die in there. But it was a Hail Mary. I was plumb full of freaking radical cancer cells. My Dr. Silverman here is supposed to be great pathology. He biopsied it, put it in the wrong dish. So they sent out to dozens and dozens and dozens of labs. This is important. Now stay with me. Trying to identify, because Fimbo Peterson, that guy says he's so sick, his vitals are so we can't even go in him again. He'll die, So they backdoored and sent this lab because Silverman had put it in the wrong dish to try to identify it. Sent it out to dozens and dozens of labs all over. You name it, they sent it to them. Believe it or not, they finally got a hit. University of Nebraska, in their cattle science room, in their lab in Nebraska, they got a hit. And they broke it down. It says it's de novo, it's AML leukemia, and it's radical. That's where Spanish flu came from. So to this day, they'll tell you we don't know. Yes, we do know where Spanish flu came from. It came from, it becomes as natural as occupying a bird refuge. Cows, big ag is disgusting, but this mutation. So that's what it was. And thus they were able to tweak the freaking treatment, which is radical. I couldn't recover after 3. My platelets were just knocked down. Finally, Fimbo says, because there's a guy named Brian Morris who they sent home to die, same type of situation. Now, Carla had the same thing as me, Annecy. She passed away. Marshall Gentry, you can Google his case, was in the room next to me. He died. She died. She had the same thing as me. Her pathologist had it figured out good. She had a good one. It was a breast in her lump. Or a lump in her breast, but it was de novo. It's very heartbreaking. She was one gem. It likes to kill very healthy, strong people, by the way. Beautiful people. Only the good die young. So, I wouldn't recover. I went to California. I rehabbed in Pacific Beach, my home at Tourmaline Canyon. There, I could barely walk. I kept fighting the nuclear industry, my intensity. Slowly over the years, I walked the entire coast of California. Getting in tune with I think it's intuitive and natural to be drawn to the ocean when you're dying. A lot of people go walk the Pacific Trail. I didn't walk the Pacific Trail. I walked the coast, which tried that one. Sleeping in a sleeping bag, dying. So I didn't die, but the platelet counts wouldn't return. You think about it. I'm sleeping on park benches, doing incredible radical activism, people trying to fight me, whatever, and I got platelets of 30, One blow to the head, I would have bled to death, which I almost did a couple times. I was born with a bad org valve. I could feel it burning, but they can't operate. Your platelets, so you'll die. So finally, I knew what it was. I kept telling people that my aortic valves were going on. Michael Hawkins at Ogden Regional Medical Center tried to murder me. You can't sue him. He told me to go see my dentist, and there was a nurse in there that was my nurse at top of LDS East Station. No, Kevin's can't. I heard him arguing. No, well, I ran the test. He didn't run any fucking tests because I was uninsured. By the way, I had about $1 million in the stock market. Remember all those people that I talked into buying Tesla stock in 2011? You think one of them came forward? I mean, I made so money. My videos used to get played in the finance school of business at Berkeley because the students, one of the professors says the kids are got a drinking contest every time you say fuck. And I says, well, they'll never graduate. I talked a lot of them into buying Tesla. Their grandpas have made millionaires all over, but not too bad. I had 33,000 shares of Tesla when I got sick. I had to fork it over to get in. I was uninsured. So Mike Lee kicks me off Medicaid, tries to murder me in 2015, right when I'm supposed to have gallbladder. So Mark Val fell. I collapsed in this yard right here. I don't know how I didn't die. I had emergency open heart surgery. The chemo, and it was going to go anyway. But then, I don't know any people that ever had gallbladder pain. It's a nightmare. But they couldn't operate. I was due for emergency gallbladder, very tricky because of low platelet count, in 2015, June. The day before, I got a call and says, you're uninsured. I said, no, I'm on Medicaid. Mike Lee had kicked me. No notification, anything. Mike Lee, that scumbag who tried to kill me. God, what a dirtbag. Kicked me on Medicaid. He kicked all single male, making his idealistic stand against Obamacare. It's never been fixed. I have no insurance. Flying blind. This fight is devastating. So, it ruptured on me on Earth Day a couple years ago. The only reason, I remember I got to the emergency room and I walked in, one of the doctors was there and he says, oh my God, Dr. Blanche. He says, you were my professor at Weber State, finance. I was a student professor. This historic ongoing PhD. Saved their program. They stuck it to me. They could have paid for this. They didn't do shit. Number one school business in the United States. Now they're last. He says to me, you're the best professor I ever had. I says, I think it's my gallbladder. And they had me in surgery so fast, make your head spin off. So the girl who did the CAT scan on me, or did the ultrasound, she's an AML leukemia survivor. Young one. I know from I'm like, you're due? What's the odds? I saw her yesterday. What a gem that girl is. Young childhood AML leukemia survivor, which is rare in those days. I got it out. It devastated me. So sure shit, the teeth been going. This one was a beast getting out. It's a long haul. We're seeing that happen with COVID now. We're seeing that it's devastating people. People that have had it pass through them. Now, is it affecting everyone? Yeah. It's going to affect everyone. I mean, this thing's wicked. Where'd it come from? Well, my work is ultimately proved post-Fukushima. Nuclear meltdowns never happened before. No byproduct for that. For every action, there's a reaction. That's the greatest action in human history. It's news, the only answer, which I call Fuktonium. Remember, people used to laugh at me about the tide pools. I remember this teacher and her husband professor says, we used to laugh at you watching your videos. So we took the kids one summer here a few years back, and we trailed your trail that you've been doing on the tide pools. She says, I owe you an apology. They're wiped out. I said, yeah, I tried to tell you. How come science is not reporting that? They'll report stuff, 5, 20, 50, too late. How about my salmon work? Record returns. That's the smoking gun of Fukushima. We count every salmon. It's unarguable. The Chinook salmon collapsed in 2016. They go see it for 5 years. I mean, I can go on and on and on about my work. COVID, SARS-2, it's a whole new animal. My hypothesis, now I haven't proved this yet, but I'm working on it, is the mutation from Fukushima. Now, I have a lot of evidence because the mink all have it. What do they feed mink? Ground up whales. Whales are plankton feeders. The whales have collapsed. Think about all washed up. They all look like they're starving. And now, are they starved to death? They have cancer. We know that leukemia is showing up in shellfish. We know that leukemia is showing up in animals, whales. How about all the sea lions? This is really important evidence. At the Rescue Foundation in San Francisco on the sea lions epidemic crash of 2015, 40% of all of them that were starved to death they rescued were full of AML leukemia. I think COVID, and if you don't believe this is all crazy, you look up Marshall Jensen's case. Marshall Jensen, AIDS and AML leukemia genome is so much similar. He's the first one to get the HIV injection. I'm friends with his wife and his little boy. He was in the room next to me. We were very good friends. I remember we had to make the decision on the bone marrow transplant the same day. KSL, these scumbags here, big media, big party up at his house in North Salt Lake, Bountiful. The refinery, stair cycle, that toxic hellhole. Marshall died. They say it's working. He got the first HIV/AIDS injection into him to fight AML leukemia, the first one in the world. Talk about a pioneer. They say it's working. This is all connected. You can write it off as Tide collapse, coincidence. The salmon timing of the collapse, coincidence. The fires, which I said it's going to cause a heat source all over the United States, we're not going to know what it is. It's going to fucking bubble up the Great Salt Lake at historic levels in 2012. It's collapsed. Drought from hell. All predicted by, I predicted every bit of this. That's hypothesis. Field work, 9 years. Tide pool work. I mean, you think about my tide pool work alone. Talk about a me oh my Nobel Prize. Just that alone. At historic low tides all over now. I don't know how I've done it. Most of the time I've slept on the beach while sick. So, the long haul. This has been a long, heartbreaking fucking battle. I have no insurance. I'm wiped out financially. I'm in the fight of my life every fucking day. I didn't have a transplant. Brian's came back after 9 years. He's the only case. I'm 9 years. He had a stem cell replacement from his son Winston. I was in the hospital LDS last year with him, trying to cover. I thought for sure he'd be dead. He looked like beyond death. He's alive. He lost his wife. That's another thing with cancer, long haulers. We all lose our mates. I mean, I had some very strong relationships with some very strong females before I got cancer. They've all fled. Everybody flees from us. They hate us. Cancer survivors, they really hate us. But it's a long haul. So my belief, and I'm working on proving this, the mink evidence, a lot of this evidence is pointing to the same thing as, Fukushima. The greatest crime in human history is the cover-up of Fukushima. Just like they covered up Spanish flu, and it was devastating. I call it Fuktonium. I think my work someday will come out and it'll all be, it's not coincidence. Coincidence doesn't get science. What I've done. So I'll be in San Diego as soon as I heal up. We'll see the oncologist today. Of course, I'm not feeling good, of course. But I'll get by with a little help from my friends. I'll get high with a little help from my friends. One day at a time. Stay tuned.